All right. Now that you've got a property in mind for your compost business, it is time for you to get serious about the startup costs for that business. So it'll help us answer these questions. How much money do you need to start a compost business? And more importantly, is a compost business a good idea for you, a good idea for your situation and your area? If so, then we can think of where are some good places that you can look for the funds. On the spreadsheet, you'll see that when we think of startup costs, we need to think in terms of one-time costs, you pay and that's that, and also over here on the right, ongoing costs, costs that you're going to have every month, every year, whatever. So up here at the top, I'm going to talk briefly about some of the kinds of one-time costs you'll deal with to start your business and some of the kinds of ongoing costs. And then more importantly, we're going to take these, give some real examples, put some numbers to them so you have an idea of how to use a spreadsheet like this to calculate that. Now, these one-time costs, they will all add up as we put numbers in here. They're going to add up to your total for that. That's why we have this formula up here, right? Which basically you can just highlight it, come over here to formula and do sum. It'll add it up automatically for us. And likewise over here on the ongoing costs, we're going to have a bunch of concrete examples. Most of them, or about half of them, are on a per month basis. That will then, whatever number we have here per month, the formula here will be times 12 to give us for a year, then times 24 to give us for 2 years, and so on. And then these also will add up all the way so that this number will give us a total that we can expect for a year or for 2 years, and so on. Now, then what we do, we take our one-time costs to get started, and you should take at least a year, but preferably more, add that to your one-time to get your total startup costs. The Small Business Association says ideally you give yourself a nice long runway of 5 years. That's a lot to ask. That's going to be a whole lot of money. But the point is that if you think you're going to start a business and right away be cranked up to full revenue, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure. What we're going to do is we're going to pick this total for 2 years. Okay, so our ongoing costs for 2 years plus our one-time costs, we're going to call our total startup costs. And you can see when I have this highlighted, it says add cell B34, that's this one, and cell H41, that's this one, right? And keeping in mind that for us, it takes a while to get all the material ready, to have it go through a full process and then to sell it. So we need to give ourselves at least some runway. Okay, kinds of one-time costs. Any equipment that you just purchase outright, you're not taking a loan, you would include that on the one-time. If you do take out a loan, let's say, for example, on a truck, the down payment we're going to count as one time. Same likewise with the land. If you buy a land and you've taken a loan out, that's fine, of course, probably necessary, but the down payment is a one-time thing. Now, the land improvement, the site preparation, it might be something you just pay out of pocket, or it could be something you take a loan out for and you've got those kinds of payments. So it depends on your situation. Any tools you buy, you're probably just going to go ahead and pay for out of pocket. Other equipment, hoses, pumps, that kind of thing. Now, here are a couple of costs that you may not yet be aware of, but our last video was, or the 2 videos ago was on permitting. When you talk to your regulating agency, when you look through the requirements, pay special attention to how much does it cost just to get permitted in the first place. And yeah, this issue of financial assurance, again, if you up and disappear, the state is going to need some money to clean up your site if you haven't closed it down properly. So they're going to demand as part of your permit that you submit financial assurance for them to use for that. So that's a cost. That's a cost for you. Now, ongoing costs, like I say, at least a year, 5 years would be great. We're going to pick 2 of ongoing costs for our startup costs. If you have a lease or you have a mortgage payment, that's going to be monthly. Any other loan payments, likewise. Now, fuel, I'll give you some of my experience with how much fuel costs me. And like I say, break it down by type. Your truck, your skid steer, they're going to all be, it's going to be worthwhile to keep track of those separately. Income that you pay yourself. Don't neglect yourself. If you do hire someone to help you, that labor cost, of course, is ongoing. The maintenance of your skid steer, whatever equipment you have, fluids, filters, and whatnot, and inevitably everything breaks. It's going to be a cost to have a mechanic fix it. You can do what you can, but it's going to cost some money. Then, of course, things like advertising, and I'm including in there your website, copies, that kind of thing. If you do a residential pickup, you may, like I, decide to provide your participants with liners and buckets. The liners, obviously, the buckets also, they don't last forever. It'll be ongoing. Utilities, insurance, yearly, you're going to have to pay for a business license. That won't be much. Taxes and tax preparation, highly variable, especially the taxes. You're going to have to do some things to keep your permit up. So one thing is you're going to have lab analysis done on your product, and that's a cost. And also that financial assurance that I mentioned as a one-time cost, you're also going to have to submit payments yearly to keep up with inflation. Now, if, like me, you decide you want to go ahead and join the United States Composting Council, you got to pay that. And merchant fees. You're almost certainly going to want to be able to take credit cards, and that's going to take a chunk out. So here are some of the kinds of ongoing, some of the kinds of one-time costs. So let's go ahead and put some numbers to it. Okay, I'm going to put numbers in all of these to show you how it adds up, how this spreadsheet can help you estimate your startup costs. But I have to keep emphasizing, these numbers are examples. Some of them from my experience, some of them just for to illustrate some point. But it is your homework, of course, to go out and find, if there are any other costs that I haven't included here, and to get as detailed and correct an estimate for all of these costs as possible, so that you know what you're getting into with your situation. And as I said, you have to decide again, should you proceed? It may well be that it is not worth it economically for you to do. So, okay, let's throw some numbers in here and see what kind of situation it looks like. Let's say you buy used skid steer and you find one that's in good shape, not too old, but it still ends up costing you $30,000 bucks. So notice the moment I put it in here, it's adding it up for me and it's adding it up in the total, right? Okay, what about a dump trailer? Maybe you don't need one, you can get by without it, so we'll leave it at 0. Let's say you've already got a truck, you don't need it, that's great. Let's say someone's helping you and they're letting you use their land. And so we're not going to put anything in there now. A little later, I'm going to start to put some numbers in just to show how a few extra things, if it's necessary for your situation, will change your whole idea about whether you should do it. Okay, let's say for the sake of example that you need to have some grading and paving done to satisfy permitting and to allow you to use your site. And you take out a loan, so we don't include anything there. But this loan, of course, you have monthly payments. Say for the sake of example, those monthly payments are, I don't know, $500. Okay. Now, this is an ongoing cost. Notice that $500 every month. Here we've got $6,000 a year. If it's 2 years, which is what we're really trying to give ourselves that kind of runway, that's $12,000. So it already is added into our 2-year total, and it's added that plus that 42,000, and we're just getting started. Let's say you're like me and you don't have power out there, but you need it to power your blowers and reciprocating saws, pumps, what have you. So you make the investment knowing it's going to pay for itself over the long term, but it's not free. Let's say and this is a little more than what I paid, but in today's prices, it would be at least that. So another 15 grand, again, showing up here. Hand tools, let's say you've got some, but you want to go ahead and, or power tools rather, you need some more, you end up paying $1,000 on that. Hand tools, again, I have no idea what you have, what you're working with, but let's say you need those. Now, shipping container for storage. I got robbed. I didn't have a shipping container to put stuff in for a while, so I ended up buying one. Cost me a couple $1,000. Let's say nowadays they're $3,000. Again, no idea what it is for you now, but I'm glad I did because it's metal. No one's going to break in there. Okay, some other equipment, some hoses, pumps, things like that. Let's say you get a good series of those. Now your permit fee here, again, you're going to be talking to your permitting agency, your regulatory agency, probably a Department of Environmental Quality or something like that. But I don't know what it is nowadays, but it could be $3,000, could be $5,000, could be free. I don't know. Now with that, you're going to need to pay for some public notices. Okay. Now your engineering fees, maybe they don't, maybe they do. I was required to have an engineer help me and submit some engineer stamped drawings with my permit, and that's not cheap. So for me a while ago it wasn't near this much, but let's say it costed $2,000. Okay. And financial assurance, $5,000-$6,000, not at all unreasonable. So you see, we're already assuming that we're starting off in good shape. I've already got land. That's a huge one. Maybe I already have that. Well, even so, we're not talking about nothing here, and we haven't even gotten to most of the ongoing costs. Let's put some money in here. Again, we're going to assume for now that you don't have to, that you've gotten land for free and that you've got your own truck, okay? But you're going to have some fuel. If you're doing pickups, if you're running around doing pickups, that's going to end up costing you a fair amount in fuel. It could be $500 a month. Your skid steer, and this is something that that is very close to what I pay, about $550 a month. Now, a little bit of gas for generators, weed eaters, stuff like that. I really don't have to pay that much. I use them a fair amount, but a little bit of gasoline. Okay. Now, let's say for now that you're not paying yourself, that you have, like me, you're getting started while you also have a full-time job. A lot of work, but early on, that might be what you have to do. Now, labor, likewise, you're going to try and do it on your own at first, probably. Now, maintenance on the skid steer, you're going to have to spend a lot in fluids and filters and change those out a couple of times a year. And everything breaks, so unless you're a mechanic, you're probably going to have to pay someone some money. If you can get through a year only paying $500 on repairs, I'm happy for you. You're going to want to do some advertising. So this much per month, say. Again, if you're going to provide these liners and buckets to your participants, the liners are going to add up more, but the buckets are going to be something also. Let's say thanks to this photovoltaic power and rain catchment, you're like me and don't have any utility costs. Great. A couple times a year I find it necessary to rent some equipment. insurance. So you might do product liability. I don't do that, but I do have insurance in case someone gets hurt on site or something like that. Business license, not going to be a lot of money to the state, $40. This taxes and tax preparation, highly variable. I'm not going to put anything for that. Now you'll have to have your product analyzed. It could well be more than $300 a year. I'm just putting that in there. And let's say for financial assurance adjustment, I think it's about $300 for the membership. And membership fees or merchant fees, that depends on how much credit card revenue you get, but it's not going to be nothing. So again, I've put some numbers in here. Let's see what we're looking at. One-time cost, $63,000, right? Now, ongoing costs per year, we're saying we want to give ourselves a little more runway. And now again, and this is not even counting taking any money out for us. So just for that, saying you're not getting any money out, you're just keeping everything going and working another job or have another source of income. And our startup costs are not small, $117,840. Okay, now as I was saying, these numbers I've put in just to show you how this spreadsheet works. You're going to want to change all of these, add to, take away from for your own situation. And you might find that very quickly things get out of hand. For example, maybe you do need to buy a truck, right? And you want to put down $20,000 on the truck, take out a loan, costs you another $300 a month, right? Already we've shot this startup cost up to $145.40, right? Property. I was assuming a big thing that you didn't even have to buy any property or pay a lease. Let's say you don't buy, but you pay a lease. Again, no idea what it would be, but let's say it's $500 a month. Or let's say you put down a down payment on some property and still have to pay $500 mortgage. These are not unreasonable things. Let's say you've got to do some, I already assume for the sake that you take out a loan for the improvements. But anyhow, a few things, and now we've got $103,600 in one-time costs, and for a couple of years, $73,000 and some. So our startup costs have really gone up. Now, likewise, no matter what it is, these ongoing costs, again, as you operate, you're going to change what they are. But let's say you get over the hump, you get started, whatever loans you're making payments on, but every year you can expect to have to pay, this kind of number out, the operating costs of your business, this or more, right? And now at some point you're going to need some income. You can't just do this because you're a nice person. So let's say you need $4,000 a month of income. Okay, translates to $48,000 in a year. Okay, so now every year this business had better produce $85,720 in revenue or more. Again, everything's going to be more than you think. So now you need to take this, go back to your market research, run your calculations on how much you think that you can produce. Can you produce $86,000 worth of compost in a year? And like I say, you're going to need to produce more than that. So this spreadsheet will get you a good idea of how much money you need to get started with, and also help you soberly look at the whole situation and think. As much as you love the idea of a compost business, there's a very good chance that you should not do it. Okay, you need to pay attention to these numbers. Okay, if you do decide to proceed, there are a few different sources that you can find these funds. One, of course, is a bank loan, perhaps a small business administration-backed bank loan. You could also take out a home equity loan or a home equity line of credit. The second one, the home equity line of credit, or HELOC as they're called, is what I did. I'm not sure I recommend it, but it's a possibility. Personal loans, you could have people that you know and support what you're doing loan you money. And likewise, people who believe in you and have the funds, you might take them on as investors. All of these have their own complications and stress. You hear a lot about crowdfunding and grants. I honestly don't think you're going to get enough money with those. You might. It's worth looking into, but it's going to take a lot of your time, and I don't think you're going to get enough. And the one thing I definitely don't recommend is credit cards, because it takes us in this business a long time to turn that material into product, to turn that product into revenue. And in the meantime, the high interest rates of credit cards are going to kill you. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope you very soberly examine and analyze these numbers for yourself. And if need be, decide not to do this. If you do decide, I wish you the best of luck, and I hope this has been helpful.